Hi, and welcome to the 27th podcast of Keen Minds, where we're covering the 5th episode of the Blacklist Redemption. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saiko.
And I am Tessa of Criminally Sane.
And let's just dive right in. And so,
Love Borealis 301.
I was going to say, how did you like it?
I loved it. I absolutely, I'm not going to say that I like it better than the Russia one because that was pretty good. And Davenport was really good. But this was good in a very different sense, especially because if I felt like it was Solomon's episode.
We finally got something on Solomon's background, and so I was so excited for that because I've been waiting for like a year just for something on his background, probably over a year now, and finally we got something meaty on his background, and I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Are you happy with the kind of background? It's like a wrestler that when they give you the background, you're like, oh yeah, I know. I know.
I thought it fit perfectly. Do we want to just start with Solomon?
Let's start with Solomon. It was really Solomon's episode.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that backstory was just, I've said it before that when they advertised, when they started talking about this character, Matthias Solomon, they were bringing on the Blacklist. And they cast Eddie Gathegi for it, and they gave a character description. I said, I have a lot of high hopes for this character. And the way they described it. And when he actually appeared in season 3, I tweeted Eddie, and I was like, listen, I had high hopes for Matthias Solomon, and you've surpassed them greatly. And I feel like every step of the way, the expectations I set for his character keep getting surpassed. And this was just another example of that I've been waiting on pins and needles for his backstory. And this is just a piece of it. There's so much more there. And we finally get the first sliver of this backstory of something from his childhood, his first kill, which is huge, and why, that was the beginning of Mr. Solomon. The fact that he took his destiny into his own hands, his family's destiny, and made sure that they were never going to be scared again if he could help it at 13 years old. That's
scared, hungry, or cold.
Yeah. And I loved that. And so it sounds like his mother was, had a huge heart and was a kind person and did everything she could, but just
wasn't enough.
Yeah. And so he did what he had to. And that formed up the man that we see today, one step after another. And so I really liked that. And I like the fact that, yes, it's a cold move, but it was, and I hate to call it desperate because it was desperate, but I think knowing the character of Matthias Solomon, that it was probably a very calculated move, even at 13,
He did what he had to do. And I found it interesting because we have seen so far that basically all of the characters of the Blacklist, probably with the exception of Aram, and for what we have seen, even in Redemption, they've all have had stories in their life that shape them at about that critical age. Liz was a little younger. Tom was throughout his childhood. We got Samar at 14 with her parents killed basically almost in front of her, taking care of her little brother. We get Wrestler with his father. We get definitely Red with, the things that happened to his family. So all these people have been shaped by this tremendous trauma in their life, especially the ones, the children that the world almost breaks are the ones who grow to save it. So it's interesting that every single one of these characters in this generation have had a tremendous amount of trauma in their life as children and have had to grow up very, very fast.
Yeah,
I'm interested when we get that from Ness as well. And when we already got some Dumont with the situation with the brothers.
But yeah, it's Solomon definitely fits the bill on the traumatic childhood shaping who he has
Mm-hmm.
become. And so I would love to know, because he never specified how many brothers and sisters he had. I'd love to know if any of his family still alive, where they are, what they think
Do
of
you
him.
remember that girl? I'm not sure if call her girl or a young woman that we saw. They said bring the car around when he's going to go fill Ed Lee's. I think it looked a little like him, and I thought, I wonder if it's a child, but it can't be a child. It's too young. But I wonder if it was a sister.
I don't remember when you're talking about.
You remember in Ariel Kane when Mr. Vargas calls him and tells him about the plane instead of calling Edward? And he says, "Oh, well, I always like that name, Edward." And then he turns around to this young woman and says, "Bring the car around." And the woman looked like him. And I
I think
wonder if
I vaguely remember you saying that at the time. I'll have to go back and look.
So I wonder if that is, one sibling that he has working with
Maybe.
him.
I mean,
Because they seem to have made an effort to cast a person that looked like him.
yeah. I mean, you never know. That might be the case. I mean, and I would be interested to know if Solomon's another fake death. If somewhere along the way he just ceased to exist and that he cut ties with his family because,
That is not even his real name.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I could see it not being his name and that he faked his own death and still sends money home. I could see him being one of those. The kind of like Vanessa Cruz, the anonymous anonymous money going home.
Or he may be the kind that goes home to his mom every Christmas or and
Could you imagine
visits
Solomon?
mommy on Sundays. I mean, for all we know.
Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious. Hey, it's possible. I've got that mental image now. That's fantastic. That's gonna keep me for a while.
Yeah, we don't. We really don't know, and I think that he is definitely a brave man. I mean, that is brave. He didn't have to go after these guys. He could have just said, "Okay, let me see if I can." He could have just taken the vest and jump himself and save himself. He could have done a lot of things, and he chose to complete the mission.
Yeah, he's definitely dedicated, and I think part of that's the loyalty to Scotty, but he's also very, very on top of things. I mean, he's being sucked
quite
out
literally this time.
Yeah, he's being sucked out the door, and he's busy taking care of the situation and getting connected to the guy who's unconscious, and making sure that he's like, I know I'm going out this door. I'm gonna make sure I survive. And so I love Tom's comment later. You just can't die, can you?
I love that we never saw the scene but it was one guy in his underwear and another guy in a tree, but I guess that didn't make it.
I was so sad. I was looking forward to that. Oh.
But I thought it was very interesting how in that situation where he could have just say, okay, well, I'm going to go and try to land this plane, establish contact or whatever. He chose to complete the mission.
Right.
Because he could have just bailed out with the guy, with the parachute. He attached himself to the guy, parachute, and then proceeded to tell him that they have no communication to get the mission accomplished. And that is definitely Solomon to a T.
Oh yeah, yep. And I loved the roomie while we were watching it during the whole when they're talking about the aircraft, the safety bit on the aircraft. And he goes, I'll do the belt, but I'm not doing the vest. Not doing that. And then Tom turns around and switches the
and the look he gave him. I love those looks he gives because it's so expressive.
He stops and you can see it as Tom's talking behind him. You see the recognition in his face when he just kind of stops, blinks, turns around and is like, you. This will come back to bite you, buddy. And when I was watching it, the roomie looks and she starts laughing. She goes, they're just doing fan service now. They just know we love these scenes and they just keep doing it. I said, yeah. Hey, if it
They're
works.
perfect. They're absolutely perfect. And Eddie and Ryan work amazingly well together.
Oh, they have such great on-screen chemistry for that. It's fantastic. And so I think
Yeah.
Ryan honestly works well with like
With
anybody he's
anyone,
put with.
but Solomon has great scenes with basically everyone.
Hmm.
I mean that scene with Red when they're talking about the flowers and he just going on with them is like perfect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eddie is a fantastic actor. Absolutely fantastic.
And gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, that's we couldn't go a podcast without talking about how pretty Eddie is.
Yeah.
For those that have not listened, I think both Tessa and I have a little bit of a crush. I know I do.
I'm not one. I mean, I won't put pictures in the thing or not, but I appreciate beauty when I see it.
And Eddie Gathegi.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
So it's a very interesting point they chose to give us a background on Eddie because it's that cold thing.
You mean on Solomon?
Perfect. Solomon, yeah.
I loved the comment about him saying that means I don't like the cold.
I love the way because it's something that we have seen Red do in a very different way. That he gets close to the guy, he put all his clothes, and he put all the guy's clothes on, and he's like, well, I hate cold. And then he's like, oh, I lied. We have communications. Yep.
He does what he needs to do, and it kind of reminded me of Mira from early season 1 with the broken leg. What was that? That was the second episode in, I think, where Liz ran the guy over with the car and broke his leg. And Wrestler's like, this woman is CIA. I hope you know what that means. And she
comes and says, my friend here is with the FBI. I'm CIA. I hope you know the difference.
Yeah, I guess Wrestler wouldn't have been saying that at that point. But yeah. But
Wrestler probably would have been horrified of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a long way for Wrestler since then.
Yeah. Now he's good with it. Well, maybe not good with it, but yeah, no.
Oh, yes, he was. He was doing pretty good with it.
Yeah, I mean, he was willing to throw the guy in front of the oncoming car in season 4.
Yeah, it's like,
I've seen people talk about how he didn't do that, and I'm like, he really did. I watched it on my TV screen,
He did. He did.
But no, it reminded me of Mira with the broken leg when Solomon was busy pushing on the broken leg there.
Yeah.
And so, hey, get it done.
Get it done.
How they need it.
Yeah. So it's an impressive dedication that he has, and it's funny because whenever you see these characters and you're ready to dismiss them as being 100% bad, then they turn around and show you another side of the character where you realize, well, maybe there was a judgment passed too early and without having all the information.
And that's why I made the statement before Redemption started airing. I said, I will not say whether I want a redemption arc for Solomon or not, because I don't know what redemption arc they're going to give us. Because, I mean, if the guy poisoned a baby, which I know that you said he hasn't, but we haven't gotten one way or the other if he actually did poison Dembe's grandchild or not. So, it's kind of, like, there are very few things that I feel like someone can't come back from. That's, trying to kill a child is one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's... Now,
but
Tessa's made the good...
I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you've made the point that there's a good chance that he just said he did and never actually did, which, from what we've seen of Solomon since then, that's right up his alley. Why do the effort if you don't have to? You just tell someone and expect them to go along with it. Kind of like saying that the radio was dead when it wasn't, Say what you need to get the job done.
Yeah, and if you're gonna lie convincingly.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Ness now?
Yeah, I loved...
She had very little to do on this episode.
She did, but I loved when the hug with Solomon, where she just, like, tackle hugged him and was like, you jumped out of a plane, really? And so I think it says a lot for Nez and Solomon's history that they have and their chemistry. I mean, I've commented on Tumblr that I ship them a little. I could see something going on there. I feel less like that further into this. Like, I mean, not that I ship them any less, but like I feel like it may be canon a little less the further into it we go. I haven't seen any other signs that say, yeah, these two are sleeping together, but they could be. I mean, I could see that within their characters. But I do like the friendship that they have, the camaraderie that they have between each other. You know, I've made the comment before that I think that was it the pilot episode in? Yeah, it was. When when Solomon and Tom are dragging the girlfriend, the Russian girlfriend, into the back of the van, she looks around like, you better have Solomon back there with you this time.
Oh yes, I fell for that one once. I'm not doing it again.
I love their relationship with that. They're goofy together. They seem to really be fond of each other and work well together, and I like that because Solomon is such an imposing figure. It's nice to see that he's kind of got a soft spot for Nez, and I feel like that, you know, if she were ever in trouble, he'd be there in an instant, which will be interesting next week when Nez has to make a choice. It'll be interesting to see how Solomon reacts to Nez in that situation where essentially, if everything pans out the way that it looks like it's going to, essentially you're going to have Scotty and Solomon on one side, Nez and Howard on the other side, and poor Tom going, what the hell do I believe, in the middle. And it'll be interesting to see how Solomon and Nez pan out, at least temporarily being on opposite sides.
Yeah, I also found it very interesting on Nez the fact that in this case they're talking about former Navy officers going rogue, and she was a Navy officer. I don't think that she went rogue, but she definitely had a rough time with drugs, and Howard helped her clean out. And you know, in a way, she's doing the same thing as these guys are doing it, but she's doing it for good.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. I mean, I did find it interesting. She never once said, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I've seen on other shows when you have a former military member, you know, they're very, I think it was NCIS LA that I'm thinking of. One of them's former Navy, I believe it is. And, like, someone popped up that was, you know, Navy but had gone bad. And they're like, no, we have to trust our Navy brothers. And it's like, that wasn't even an issue for her. She's just like, and here they are. Let's go save our team. Yeah, and her loyalty was 100% with her team, her current team.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an interesting thing.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was interesting. She didn't have as much to do as last episode, but I like that they giving, you know, time for all characters to develop a background and a sense of who they are, and humanize them. They're not just the sexy Bond kind of type. We do get an idea.
Definitely, and they're so good at balancing them. I mean, because I feel like a lot of times in the Blacklist, like Liz has to either be out with Samar or out with Wrestler. The three of them can't go in on something, and I'm like, why can the three of them not do something? Like, I don't understand this. And yet, in this episode, and we've had it before, where Tom, Nez, and Solomon are all there. They're all going in. They're all, you know, on the task.
Well, usually in the Blacklist, you have a lot more things happening at once. A lot of, you know, when you get, I think when you get red, you get angles. And so there is always somebody working one or another angle to it, where this is a very focused, specialized mission that happens in a short period of time. So I think that might be the difference with the way they operate.
And that may be it. That may be it. But I do very much enjoy it. I was a little worried about that going into the show, and it's something that they've done very well with. The three of them work very well together, and just, I mean, almost like they've been working together for years.
Mm-hmm. How about Dumont?
Oh, Dumont.
Tasty. I'm waiting for the tasty of the episode.
My favorite thing about Dumont is how emotionally invested he gets. When Tom came back and said, "Yes, I'm alive," after the plane leveled out and everything,
Yeah. There's a
Dumont got
big.
this. Yeah, he was just so excited, and he gets very, very emotionally invested in his team, and I feel like sometimes he gets frustrated that yes, where his skill set lies is behind the computer, but I think he gets frustrated that he can't do more. Like there's only so much you can do from behind a computer. You can when you're him, you can do a lot, but
Mhm.
that they're getting shot at and he's there in the safety of the Halcyon, base, and while he feels the time crunch, he's there and his team is elsewhere, and I think that frustrates him sometimes. I think he gets very nervous for them sometimes.
And he's very patient with Scotty when he says solutions, not problems.
Well, Scotty's the same way. I really like that about her, that she has a lot of respect for their lives. Like, they're not just pawns that she's using. And so, I mean, we can go more into that when we get to Scotty, but it's these people, like, I think it would be very easy in their line of work to just kind of, well, it's the job, people die. But they are very emotionally invested in the team that they've built here. And even though Tom is, like he said, low man on the totem pole, still the new guy, he's right there with it. Like, as soon as he accepted that job, he was part of their team. And he was part of their family, as Scotty said when he came in, welcome to the family. I think that that's very accurate for this group.
Yeah, I love the way they have made Dumont different from Aram, because that would have been a temptation to make Aram 2.0, and they made a whole different character with very different quirks, and the tasty. Every episode, I'm like, come on, say it, man, say it.
And I love how Adrian just owns that on Twitter too. Like everything he posts now is #tasty.
Tasty.
It's great. So, Kat and Trevor. I
boy.
kind of have them together because they're both very small characters, and yet well, ish.
Yeah.
So I have this theory that's been eating me alive about Kat for the last couple days. Well, I've got a theory that popped up a day or two ago that I've kind of settled on and I really like so far. And then today, Kat I had to stop denying that she might be the culprit. So we have an issue in which you have both Howard and Scotty saying, I found a line item that my significant other never told me about, Whitehall. Both of them said almost verbatim the same thing. Howard to Tom, Scotty to Trevor, talking about Whitehall. And so I don't disbelieve either of them.
I don't either.
And I think that that's honest and accurate on their ends, and I think that neither of them know what Whitehall is at this point. So, if neither of them know what Whitehall is, to me, that means there's a third party setting them up. If someone's setting them up, then they have to have access to the finances, to
Friar Metcalf,
which is a good possibility, though he seemed awful nervous and willing to spill. I mean, granted, he had a knife to his throat, but like, he didn't strike. But I mean, he could just be really good at faking being nervous and innocent. But whoever it is, I think would have to have access to the finances and also be someone that both Scotty and Howard trusted. Both of them trusted, so that they could sit there and play both people against each other. And it's also possible, now, Kat could, it's not like Halcyon would go to Kat if both, the Hargraves were pushed out and Christopher was, legally dead, etc., etc. And it could be someone on their legal team doing it too, because Scotty said in the pilot episode, my legal team is pushing me to Mark Christopher is dead. And so it could be someone on their legal team that's orchestrating all of this.
And we
But
don't know whose relative Kat is from. I mean,
exactly,
that may be. And I
exactly.
find it interesting that they chose a British actress for that
You
role.
just don't trust Brits, do you?
Oh, I love Brits. Hey, my mother-in-law is Brit, but I find that interesting because we have got some Brit things going on in the
Yeah.
Blacklist. So naturally, when I see that the private personal assistant of one of the head of a giant information gathering company is British, bells just rang up. Like,
Yeah. But with Kat, she has access to the office. She obviously knows quite a bit about both the
mm-hmm.
Hargraves. She was one of the few people that knew Howard went off his meds. Um, she had that stack of papers and files and such when she was talking to Tom when he was going in to look through the safe. And then later, when you see the comic book on Scotty's desk, and I looked while Tom was in there, when he was in the office, those papers were that stack was not on Scotty's desk, and so
So that was brought by
it
Kat.
looks like the same stack that Kat had. And so, I mean, you can't. It's not like you can see the comic book in there, but there's a good part. Like, I mean, it looks like the same stack. It really
Mm.
does. So I'm wondering if Kat is related to somebody on the board, on the legal team, whatever the case. If she's, seeing someone, it has some sort of deal with someone, and she's the inside man, as it were.
Mm-hmm. She could be very well undercover.
Mm-hmm. And
And
because the
yeah.
question keeps coming up, why is this woman who you assume is intelligent, because I can't see Scotty Hargrave having a PA that just is flighty. I just can't see it. I can't see her having the patience for that. And so you've got this young woman who is striking up an affair with a male escort that's seeing her boss. Like, that just...
Yeah.
That's been an ongoing question amongst the fandom, and this might help shed some light onto it if, that she's just working another source with that.
I think Trevor is working for someone, and I think she's working for someone, and they're both trying to get information of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because Trevor asking about what was Whitehall, it was like, oh, pal, I mean, you just were a little too.
And I mean, the actor that plays him has been doing a lot of interviews and such before the show aired, and so I thought he was, when I saw it, I was like, oh, he's going to be a huge character. And then when he came out who he was, I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Maybe he's just not done much.
I never believed the score part.
And I was like, maybe the actor's just trying to, help his career with it, but I think that maybe there's just a whole lot more to him than we know yet, and so...
I think is the case. Because there was a little something. Why is he trying? I mean, he's a handsome guy. Can he get somebody that is not related to the boss, the woman he's working for?
Yeah, I mean, why would he put his job at risk? Scotty
Mm-hmm.
has obviously been a very lucrative client for him.
And talking about Kat, that's an attractive woman. They could get a date with anybody she wants.
Yeah.
Yet she's going for him, like, while trying to make believe that she's not. I don't know. It's a little. I mean, ever since I saw her, and she was wearing plaid, I'm like, I don't know about this. Something is not as it seems here.
Whenever they're in plaid.
Yeah, that's what I love, that Christmas little gift. It had the plaid, it had everything. It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, the birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, for our listeners, happy birthday to Tessa. Yesterday was or Friday was her birthday. I guess this will probably go up on Sunday, since we're recording Saturday afternoon this time. But, yes, happy birthday to Tessa.
Thank you. So it was awesome gift set with all my theories and the water and the plaid and Emma and Carla. It was awesome. But I never thought for a second, whenever I saw either one of those characters, is like, there is something off with these people. I haven't seen plot in Trevor, but his attitude says everything.
Well, I mean, you can't put plaid when you're wearing nothing. I mean,
I thought, oh boy, the costume department must have a tough time with him.
okay, for the blanket that you're covering yourself with today. Yeah. Oh, Trevor. I almost didn't recognize him when he was fully clothed in this episode.
Yeah. And they when they meet at the bar and there's like the phone and the non-disclosure agreement and
No, I mean that was one of the things with Kat when Scotty says she wants a non-disclosure agreement. Well, what do you tell him? And she does that a lot. And at first I thought that she just really liked Scotty and that she just wanted to help and that she just really respected Scotty. The further along it goes, the more I think that she's just fishing for information. You know, she wants to know about Christopher. She wants to know why Trevor needs to
find Christopher.
Yeah.
Did you?
And that's another thing I have with this theory is that if this is the case, I think whoever started all of this is also responsible for Christopher's disappearance. That was the catalyst that they were using to start driving that they were playing a long game, and that was what they used to start driving the Hargraves apart to eventually oust them from their own company.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to see that the arcs we're going to see played are season 1 is going to be this thing, Scotty versus Howard. And I think the cliffhanger we're going to end up with is a little leading to who took Christopher. And who took Christopher is going to be season 2, or it might expand more than one season. And then we'll probably, if we get a third season, it would be who Scotty really is.
Yeah, I don't know if they're planning on a season 2 or if they're just going to work. I have a feeling that they have it set up so they can either do a season 2 or it can also easily work back into the Blacklist.
Mm-hmm.
I would wager that's how they have it set up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't have an inside source or anything. I'm just guessing, but just from everything I've seen on it. So, speaking of plaid a little bit ago, have you noticed that Howard's been wearing a lot less plaid lately?
In this episode, he wore a lot of plaid on the second episode, on the third
I'm
episode.
saying like this episode, he didn't wear any plaid. He was in a striped shirt.
Yes. And he wasn't outside, so he wasn't wearing his cap.
Yeah.
Or
no plaid.
Anything.
Well, he wasn't wearing his cap when he was outside because Solomon was leading him away. He did not have his cap on.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah. So one of the questions I had about Howard was when he's going through the comic book cipher, which apparently really freaked Tom out. I love. I mean, because Tom thinks outside the box, but that just was apparently too much for him. That was the line that should never be crossed. It offended his spy senses. It offended his spy senses right there. Mm-hmm. But Howard made a comment about that it worked last time and that this wasn't, he obviously got the code word wrong because it had worked before. And I'm going, okay, so where did he get the prior code word? Is this something that he and Scotty had done multiple times before? Is this something that they regularly used? And so that's how he knew to go for it. How did he get this information?
Had been getting this thing himself before he went on the run. Before, and then he knew it. And I think what happened is they changed the comic.
That may be.
And he didn't know that.
No, because Tom went and got the exact same comic, didn't he?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, was it a different one? Okay.
It was a different one. That one was Ultra Flight, and the other one was some other comic. It was even a different comic book entirely.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that.
So it was interesting that probably how the fact that they changed the comic made him believe that it wasn't working. Mm-hmm. But because Tom says the comic book, he goes and buys the exact comic book that Scotty had and then he decoded. So, and then it's interesting because it leads us to believe that Scotty was the one decoding the messages because he sent somebody to Solomon. But it's funny because apparently those things were arriving in her desk and she already knew where Howard was. So I wonder if Solomon find Howard by simple detective work, following Tom and following leads.
And I think that's probably true. And like I said, if that comic book came from someone like Kat to set Scotty up, then, I mean, because Kat would have access to that, she would have access to the safe. I mean, and by the way, Scotty needs a little better security on that safe if you can just pick it with a lockpick. I just want to point that out. For a high-level intelligence agency, she needs more security on her safe, her personal safe.
Well, probably she figures out that anybody who's in there has a right to be there because the security in that building must be super tight.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I mean, that was a joke.
Yeah, I mean, he just waltzed in with his lockpicks and was like, doop, done. You know? But it also may be that whoever's, you know, if someone is setting the Hargraves up, that it was set up that way. That roll call is not something, because did you notice that none of the other files had anything on them? The only one that was marked was roll call. And so, to me, it just screams setup. I mean, and we've seen setups all through the Blacklist. The biggest one with Liz, when she was set up by the Cabal. So, I mean, this is not unprecedented in the world that we're working in. And these
Drogs
massive
definitely,
setups.
And Drogs could easily account for Howard's. I mean, we have the thing with Cooper. And if we think about it, the time when Cooper started getting the symptoms that were made to create the problem, that's exactly the same time when Howard started going crazy.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah. So it is something, you know, to think about, that they have had a precedent of creating diseases to manipulate people.
And you know what? If this is something coming out of the Cabal, which it could be, because Laurel Hitchens said how much the Cabal hates Halcyon. You know, what if it's a long game from the Cabal? I keep saying the Cabal has been far too quiet lately. I don't trust it when they go quiet, because they're not done. And Laurel Hitchens, I mean, I don't think that they're back.
I think that we keep thinking the Cabal is this little thing, and then they show us, oh, wait a minute, no, it's a little bigger. Oh, this is it. No, it's a little bigger. Oh, it's a little bigger, and we keep forgetting that map that Red had.
Yes. And so, I mean, it could very easily be someone from the Cabal, because like you just said, they've used this tactic before. And we also saw it in the water in the Independence USA episode, where they were drugging all the people in the town through the water with low doses. And so, I mean, we've seen this all through the Blacklist and now through Redemption as well. It's a possibility. It's not out of the realm there.
And that would be fairly easy. I mean, Cooper's symptoms needed a doctor that, you know, like Andropov, that created this very specific set of combination of drugs to create that symptom. But making somebody appear maniac depressive, it's child's game.
I mean, because
so many things make you depressive and so many things make you a maniac.
If Howard was on medication, he had to have been seeing someone. I know Scotty said that he didn't see anybody to talk to, but he must have seen someone if he was on some sort of antidepressant medication. And, I mean, because I can't remember if it's psychologist or psychiatrist that prescribes medication.
Psychiatrist.
So, I mean, so he had to have seen a psychiatrist. And so maybe she felt like he needed a psychologist versus psychiatrist, but regardless of the situation, he had to have been seeing someone. If he went because his wife asked him to and got medication, the psychiatrist could have been paid off to give him incorrect medication, you know, and start sending him spiraling down this way.
The way, controlling him any way he want. And then we don't know if Kat was the one sowing seeds, like, oh, I don't know, I saw Scotty do that, or Scotty asked me to put something in there. I mean, it's so easy when you're getting people who are already distraught by the loss of a child.
And distrusting because they work in the intelligence community. I mean, these people are on high alert all the time because of the community they work in. And so, yeah, like I said, if it's someone that they trust, it could very easily be set up. Especially if it's someone like Kat working with someone else that they trust. And so they're getting it from both sides. Well, you know, both Kat and so-and-so said this, so... And they have no communication between them, so it must be accurate. You know, that sort of thing. And so,
What do you think about Howard asking for Agnes this time?
Oh, okay. So I have two. It depends on Howard. It depends on if he's a good guy or a bad guy. It really does. If he's good guy. I think that we've seen Tom get super focused before, where he just beelines on something, and until he comes up for air, he doesn't realize that anything else is happening. And, I mean, that's very much in his personality type. And I think it's a very good possibility that's what Howard's doing right now, is that he's just so focused on getting this dealt with that as soon as this is done, then I can bond with my son. Then I can ask him about his life up until now. But we have to handle the threat first. And in that moment, when they had a beat of rest as he's trying to decipher this stuff, he asks about his granddaughter. I mean, but Tom was certainly taken back by it, because it's the first time in, a month that he's probably been working with him, maybe closer to 2, that he's asked about his little girl, And so, but I did love Tom's response. Agnes is everything. It was great. And so, but it could be that, or if Howard's a bad guy, it was an emotional manipulation to try to make him feel like he was bonding.
I thought the timing was bizarre, because it was just when the things were starting to not work and all that. It's like, oh, why are you saying this now? But again, now I'm starting to think, for the same reason you did, she's saying that she found Whitehall. Howard is saying he found Whitehall. So that tells me that somebody's actually using Halcyon for their own means.
Yeah.
And Scotty seems protective of the company, of the people, of the country.
Yeah, Scotty really does. And that's one of the things I like, that even though right now she's kind of distrusting Tom, like, she walked up and hugged him, when he came back. I mean, this isn't Solomon, who is, she never questions his loyalty once. This is Tom Keene, that she's not entirely sure why he's there. And she was worried about him. She was incredibly worried.
That she had
about
even
him.
Solomon following him.
Yeah, exactly.
She wasn't trusting him.
But, I mean, she walks up and wraps her arms around him, like she was terrified for him, which I think she was. And then we see it again at the end of the episode when he backtracks on trying to tell her that he's Christopher. And when he says it's about Liz, she just immediately goes, oh my gosh, take time for your family. It's not even a question. Even amongst all the issues that she's having, her operative is having, she thinks, is having family issues. So take care of it. Absolutely. And I love that about her, that no matter how many questions she has about him, until he's more or less innocent until proven guilty to her. More or less. I mean, she's having Solomon follow him. It's not like she's just brushing something past, but she's not going to treat him like an enemy until she has proof that he is. She's still going to treat him like part of her team and part of her family until there's actionable evidence that he is working against them.
And I think that there must be something that she may be feeling towards him, like, very motherly or attached to him, that she cannot explain.
Yeah. She made the comment in the pilot episode that she feels like she can talk to him. No, I thoroughly agree with that. And so I really like that about her, though. And I loved her reaction to finding out Howard was alive. So I have a feeling that she's been questioning that. I mean, because otherwise it didn't sound like my husband's alive, what? It sounded like confirmation on something they'd been searching for. And I do think that the moment that Tom said he had a source that he couldn't identify, for some reason that information could have only come from Howard. Because that's when she started having Solomon follow Tom. It just seems to follow in the next episode. They find Howard, and she's not... Yes, she's affected by it, but it's not like this, I didn't see this coming sort of thing. Like, there had been some sort of possibility looming there.
And it's funny because she says immediately she goes into marriage is hard. Not marriage was hard, or no. I mean, he's alive. I'm still married to him, and probably I'm going to torture the heluvas out of him.
Okay, I would like to point out in Scotty's defense that the group that
We,
puts together their promos is really good on their cuts so that they make you think something when it's entirely
mm-hmm.
different. You never see Scotty at the bedside when Howard's being tortured. We do
No,
not
we
know
do
Scotty
not.
is doing the torturing. Do not blame this
No.
woman until she's actually done it.
But she certainly looked murderous.
Oh, and I don't blame her. I mean, I'm getting flashbacks to Liz with Tom with the duct tape, and I'm wondering if Scotty's gonna break a thumb or something.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't blame her. I could see where she'd be pissed.
Well, you also get
what?
this images if ever Red found out that if Red knows that Katerina is alive, if Katerina is alive, that he probably was fairly pissed too.
I mean, you have a reason to be furious if your spouse fakes their own death to try to do research on you because they think that you're trying to, sabotage
Yeah, and wait until
company.
she finds out that Tom is Christopher.
Well, and that's the thing is that when she finds that out, that's gonna hurt on so many levels. Like, I could see her being like, okay, I get it, Tom. From your point of view, yeah, you had a lot of questions. But for Howard, I could see where she'd be really hurt by that because this child that she's been looking for nearly 30 years, he took him and tried to turn him against her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a betrayal on a lot. And granted, Howard thinks that she's evil, but...
Mm-hmm.
Still, that's
well. I think
hurt.
that it all depends on if they find out that they both been manipulated. It would be fairly easy to understand, because
but doesn't mean it won't hurt.
No, because I've seen some pictures of the last wrap up of the season, the last filming day, and it seems that Howard has a suit and tie.
Yeah, I'm really hoping
it's all cleaned up.
Yeah, I'm really hoping the Hargraves come back together at the end of this and that they're okay. I want Tom's mommy and daddy to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, there's certainly, I mean, I can see the Hargrave-Reddington family reunion, and boy.
I'm telling you,
that's
Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Thanksgiving will be certainly interesting. Check the guns at the table, check the knives at the table. We're going to eat with plastic forks or no forks. We're going to eat with our hands, because everybody here can kill everybody else with hands.
I'm just thinking of Dembay with was it the spoon that he broke and was like sharpening? Yeah, that would be the... See Scotty and Red glaring at each other across the table. Liz is like, I'm going to shoot the first person that...
If you're gonna graze me with a bullet, can you please do the other arm? This one is getting a little sore.
Howard, you shot my wife?
She was making things about my daughter.
Yeah, right. She nearly killed my daughter. Liz, wait, what? And that is how Liz finds out, everybody. A pissy family reunion over Thanksgiving.
With too much to drink.
Yeah. So, I think we're at Tom now, and so I loved the two attempts to try to tell Scotty, because it was like highlighting all of his nervous tics in two scenes. You had the hard blink, you had his fidgetiness, you had everything when he's trying to tell her. It was fantastic, and I loved it. For someone that loves to try to read his body language, it was like a candy store.
Yeah, and he was saying like, maybe I can make it better. She says, I doubt it.
And he's like,
my husband faked his death. I know that in your family that might be fine. Your wife and you tried to fake the death, but no.
I really want Scotty's reaction now, because she obviously knows Liz is alive, because she and Tom are talking about Liz. I really want to know what that conversation was like.
Yeah, that
must have been
funny.
By the way, I knew I was going to kill you for killing Liz, but...
Yeah, she wasn't really dead. And now my dad is also... I mean, have you noticed that around you and Red, people fake deaths?
Right?
Maybe you need to go to a psychiatrist. And it's funny, interesting, because if you remember Red's comment when he's talking first to Scotty, he says people like us needs limits. So there is something in which he puts himself in the same category as Scotty. And if you think about it, deeply manipulative person whose answers you couldn't trust.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Red.
Yep.
Hmm.
That's I loved him trying to tell her, and then that scene at the end where he's like, nope, and then he goes in to go get the comic book. He's just
Yeah.
he's been so off his game lately because of all of the emotional situations. Like, he's on his game when he's in the field, but when he's back at headquarters and dealing with Scotty, he's very hesitant on things. He's trying to read all the layers all at once and sort them out, and you can just tell that he has so many questions he doesn't have answers to, and it makes him very nervous. And then
And
he goes to go get that comic, and he's just all business until he finds out his dad's about to get kidnapped. You know?
yeah, that, I think also there is a lovely parallel there to, how Liz was starting to, she was like all business, and then Red comes in her life, and there's this little something that starts to happen. And always remember Dr. Creel's words, the more time you spend with your parents, the more you know about yourself. And now Tom has been spending time with both his parents, and I think that he's starting to see these things that are, from both, and they're starting to get very complicated for him.
Yeah. I can't wait. I know that Liz is supposed to come up in an episode coming up. I mean, it honestly could be anywhere from next week to the finale, because poor Megan's been running like crazy and Ryan's been running like crazy. They could have filmed it early and then dropped it in. But I can't wait to see that conversation.
I wonder if this is coming because Scotty does call Liz and says, "Listen, I think Tom and you need a little time. So I'll pay for a nanny, and you come over." I mean, we have no idea, but that would be a very good segue, because Tom was forced to improvise, and he improvised upon the easiest thing to come up over, our marriage, and that was so easy. So you remember when we always thought that Wrestler had, when Audrey appears, that it wasn't the bureau that called her, that was Red that called her.
No, I had not heard that theory, but it makes sense.
So I do wonder if that is something that happens like that, because we have this coincidence of him latching on the first thing that came in his mind, which is not true. I mean, they're not having problems. Liz was very supportive of him.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that we're gonna see Liz come on Redemption in the next few episodes that we have left.
Yeah. But I was joking with someone over on Tumblr about it, because we've got Howard at the end of the 5th episode. Howard's being taken. And then we've got next week's episode, which is trying to break him out of jail, or out of, being held. And then the photos that have come up from episode 7, it looks like, at least with the body language between Tom and Scotty, it looks like at the beginning of the episode, Scotty knows who he is. Because she's
when he's like hugging him and, like looking at him like,
yeah, she's got a hold of his hands. She's just not letting this guy go, and not in a bad way. It's like a I just found my son sort of way. And then the other photos, he's just beat to hell. I mean, just bleeding, and his whole face is just messed up. And so somewhere in there, and we've got to have some sort of downtime for Liz to come in. Otherwise, it's like his dad gets kidnapped and is being tortured, and what? I'm gonna take 2 hours, I've missed my wife. She showed up in my hotel room. I mean,
hanky panky time.
It's like,
Daddy, sorry, I'll be right there. Okay.
No. It's like,
priorities here.
I know you guys have been missing each other, but Tom, we gotta talk about the fact that Dad's gotta come first when he's being held and tortured. You would want Agnes to save you. if she were,
It's
you know,
a
an
it's
adult.
a it's an interesting. It's gonna be very interesting episodes because we basically have two before Whitehall, one before Whitehall, and it will be really interesting what's gonna happen, and especially because Tom is now he's really gotta be very confused.
Oh gosh, and it's he's very much the audience for it. I mean, I keep saying that usually I have a general sense of who I trust in the show. Oh my! I mean, after the Thursday episode, I was like, I don't even know who I trust anymore.
I've been ping ponging like, oh, I
I
trust
have
Howard.
too.
Oh, wait a minute, no, and now I trust Scotty. Now I'm saying I think both are being played by
Yep,
someone.
same. And I've talked to other people on Tumblr, and that's a theory that's definitely going around. But that means the writers are doing it correctly. They are doing
Yeah.
very well with this genre. And so, something that I saw that I really really liked. I mean, considering I liked the whole episode, I feel like I'm saying that a lot. um, we saw a bit on Tom's growth. When he's talking to Howard, when he sees the comic book and he starts getting so frustrated and he feels like he's been, I don't think he feels played particularly. I think he just feels like Howard's a nut job and that he's put too much trust in him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not that Howard's trying to mislead him or anything, but he's just nuts. And Tom's been going along with it and he's just kicking himself for it. And Tom's a runner. He made that comment in season 2. He said he'd been running since he was 14. And that's all he knows. And we saw that up until about halfway through season 2. He did it with Liz. That as soon as a severe and real emotional situation came up, he was not dealing with it. You know, she has him tied to the chair in their dining room, telling him
She makes her angry.
Yeah,
because that's something he can deal with.
Exactly. Telling him, you know, say something to your wife who's dying in front of you, and he pisses her off. Because just like you said, anger is an easier emotion for him to deal with than hurt.
For everyone.
Oh, yeah. And
anger is easy. You get pissed back, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it becomes a pissing match, and that's it.
And so he is... That's what he did when it came down to real... deep, scary emotions for him early on. And instead of telling her the truth, even when the truth came out, he didn't... I mean, he owned up to it because he had to, but it's not like he owned up to the full truth there. I mean, sitting there in the dining room, he could have told her everything. He chose to make her angry because that was easier. And I'm so proud of him because 4 seasons later, we're looking at him, and he's looking at this woman that he thought his entire life had abandoned him. And he may walk up to her and say, I am your son. She may still reject him because he's been lying to her this whole time. I think that that's the reason he was so terrified with Liz in season 1, is that he felt like he was going to get rejected by her, but she probably would have, you know, and not accept him for who he was. Scott,
but I think that one thing that it may hold him back in this respect is when he starts thinking of the way he loves Agnes. And when he thinks about it, he's going to realize that no matter what Agnes ever does, he's always going to love her.
And maybe, but it's still the point that there's been a lot of emotional growth with Tom Keene, and that he's facing that fear at this point, and he's willing he's willing to not run. When he's been lying to her for the spin-off season, it's not because he's afraid to tell her, it's because he's trying to find out who he trusts. And so I like that they've highlighted that emotional growth there with the way he reacted. And it's just...
And he was so nervous trying to tell her.
I know, precious baby. I just wanted to hug
maybe
him.
I can make it better because I'm your son.
I know. I want to make you happy. Oh, Tom.
It's gonna be. What Liz have gone through. It's enormous. But I find that what Tom has gone through is even worse because he thought that he was unloved and abandoned. Then he finds out he wasn't. Now he's forced to go in a situation with his spine on his mother, who might or might not be evil, yet he's seen her cry and think about it and keep the handprint in the safe because it's a valuable thing. And and carry the beads all the time with her. And then there's a father who appears crazy, but maybe not. And it gotta be very hard.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because one wrong step could get somebody killed.
Yeah, this
If
is
he,
not like, oh, we're just gonna go into a blow up and no.
yeah, it's if Scotty is really evil, it can get somebody killed. If she's not, he could end up. If Howard's crazy and does something stupid, it could get Scotty hurt. I mean, like, it's just there is no good answer for him without all the facts, and he definitely does not have all the facts, and has been having trouble getting them.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's emotionally involved, and his radar is off.
Exactly. And he made the comment in this episode. He said, I haven't, someone told me I couldn't trust you, and I haven't been myself. And so, yes, I think you're exactly right. His radar is off on that.
Yeah, it's been a very, very interesting episode for me, because we were having all these parallel things running, but it's interesting that when it comes to the mission, everybody's willing to put each other first to complete the mission and to come back alive. And even though, Solomon may be spying on Tom for Scotty, he's still going at the mission the way the mission should go.
Yeah, exactly.
So one cannot help to draw parallels between Solomon and Wrestler.
Well, I'm sure some people could, but
yeah, I'm sure that I get a lot
there.
of heat over that. But you gotta think in terms of the love of the job is certainly there.
Oh yeah, definitely, and just the commitment. I mean, but we've talked about Tom and Wrestler having that the rule book is different. It's just, but the commitment level's the same.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very interesting, because the more you see of Scotty, the more you realize that yes, she does share a lot of things with Red. But I think that Red shares also things with Howard.
Oh, I agree. I mean, that would be why they were such good friends. I mean, I still do not believe Red I don't believe the surface of what Red said when he said that they had a brief professional friend or a brief professional relationship. It might have been a brief. Yeah, but yeah, I think there was a deeper friendship after.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't lying. He just omit things,
and that's very Red. That's what he does. Yeah. So, do you have anything else to add?
No, not really.
The little girl. We have to touch on the little girl.
The little girl, yes.
She was too cute.
Yes, she was absolutely adorable, and I love the fact that Tom goes out of the way to console the girl. It shows a lot of the growth in him and the change by having a child.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There's a lot. He's been humanized a lot by the fact that he's learning how to be a father. And I also love the fact that we have an age now for Agnes, 11 months. And so they've cemented that. So.
Well, the timeline got messed up by items beyond their control.
Yeah.
And it's good to now know that it's been 11 months since 317.
Yep.
I found another thing that I wanted to comment on is there is still one thing that we keep forgetting in all these things is there was a room in Scotty's house where there was a medical machine and somebody was in there guarding it, and that gotta play somewhere in there.
I agree, and it hasn't even been mentioned. It sounded like a respirator. A lot of people thought it was Howard in there. Well, I don't think so. I mean, Howard's been bouncing around all over the place, so that's a very interesting thought.
Because that's 11 months ago, and 11 months ago, Howard wasn't even out of the board.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on in there, but I think it's going to come to play something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be very, very intense for the next 3 weeks.
Oh gosh,
I'm betting.
I can't wait.
I
As soon as we
know.
finished the episode on Thursday, I went, I don't think I can physically wait until emotionally, physically, there is no waiting. I don't know how I'm going to do this.
In a way, it's easier to do in the Blacklist because they have 22 episodes, so everything gets like kind of stretched out and is slow. And they are giving you things, but you don't notice that they're giving. You have to go back and look for the stuff, over and over. I'm still going and occasionally watching one of the season one things, and I'm finding things that completely flew by me. And for example, you know that I am big with the symbols and the signs and the whole thing. And I notice, for example, do you notice the name of I have my chess thing, that there's a lot of chess references in the Blacklist.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of the guy from the CIA? Bishop.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. And and another thing, that you're getting all this, it's they translate from one to the other. So I am really not believing that they are completely separate
Oh,
universes.
they're
Sorry.
not. They never were. I mean, I love that they were saying that. I think they were saying that to make sure that it was open to new members, but anybody coming into this is pretty much going to have to go back. I mean, they can watch this without watching Blacklist,
Hmm.
but if they liked it, they're going to go back and start at season 1. It's meant to draw people into the main show. It is.
Mm.
I mean, it's got a different beat than the main show. I mean, obviously it has a different lead, but there's too much in here.
The mythology
Yeah.
is certainly, and I could see, that eventually being like dragged in with Tom. I mean, we're getting the same. They're manipulating symbols and themes the same way.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's going to get wrapped up back into the main show.
Now,
Regardless of if they get a season 2 or not, it'll end up back in the main show.
tell me something. You think that Scotty Hargrave always been Scotty Hargrave, or you think that she had another identity and she took the identity and kept it just like Tom did?
I don't know. I think there's a possibility that she was undercover, and that maybe whoever, is orchestrating all of this used pieces of that to sabotage she and Howard. Maybe. I now don't think that she was involved with Christopher's disappearance. That's something that shifted for me. I'm pretty sold. Like in the last couple days, I've gotten really, really sold on this theory of mine that there's a third party setting them up. And so if that's the case, then I think that person or persons are the ones responsible for Christopher's disappearance. And that
Okay,
it was used as the catalyst to start all of this.
let me ask you something. Would you say that it appear that she was indeed an undercover agent that decided just to stay on the job, or is just working a very long undercover? Where undercover from where? What her allegiances are?
I have no idea. I have no idea who she would be working with.
She seems very protective of the United States, so I'm getting a feeling that she's just that maybe when Howard started to rise into military intelligence, somebody decided to put an eye in there, making sure that they weren't going the wrong way.
And that's a possibility, but she's certainly taken Howard's side on that because she was very
Mm-hmm.
assertive in the fact that it is a private company. It was made that way. It functions that way. Basically, U.S. government, you do not have a say over us.
Mm.
Which, I like that. I mean, it kind of,
Could you see Russian there or no?
well,
I have a hard time.
if she started out as a Russian spy, she's definitely come over to come over to our side there. Like you said, she seems to really. I feel. I don't think that I've completely written off the fact that she might be an undercover agent, but I feel less that way than I did when we started.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is going to be a very wild ride. I'm looking forward to see how all this plays out. I also find interesting that nobody has mentioned the Iran Contra. They mentioned the bank. Remember that the first time when Kat says she found two things: a bank account set up by Breyer and a line item called Iran Contra, of which she couldn't find anything. And then both Susan and Howard talk about Whitehall. So nobody has found about that item called Iran Contra. So the only two mentions that I could find to that is Howard, uh, Leonard Cole, whose real name is Joseph McCrae, was his operation in Managua was finished because of the Iran Contra affair. That's the only reference I have found in the Blacklist universe to that. The other thing is that Iran Contra was arming the enemy with that they weren't supposed to be arming with weapons, the American weapons. So that could fit into whoever is doing this conspiracy is definitely on the other side.
In Whitehall, isn't that the name of the group in
Yes,
4B that was the
yes,
weapons manufacturers?
yeah. The weapon manufacturers are were trying to get the disease. They're the weaponized biological company.
Yeah,
On one side,
Natalie.
then yeah,
They were trying to weaponize Natalie.
Natalie. Yes, Whitehall could refer to that, and it could bring right back to the blacklist. Or it could be a reference to, the British government is, as we refer to the White House, it refers to Whitehall. So I don't know which one of those two things is, but both those items remain to be seen. What is that Iran Contra? Because it would be very telling if Leonard Cole was the ex-CIA agent that Howard hired to tell him what was Whitehall and then call him in the middle of the night and disappeared and never showed up.
Yeah, and he'd also have a connection to Red as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it would also circle them all back around to the Cabal.
Yes, exactly. Because the Cabal were trying to kill him.
I do think the Cabal is going to come back and that Red's going to find out that as distracted as he's been recently, the Cabal's been doing something behind his back that he is not aware of and that's coming after him. And I think that he's going to end up needing Howard and Halcyon's help to fight back on it.
Yeah, it's what I've always said when we started talking. Remember about the what was going to be the spin-off, and I said Red has an agenda, and some of the agendas need private military contractors because the FBI cannot legally do it. I mean, there's a point to where Cooper will bend, but he won't go past that. And I don't think that Red expects them to.
And he's starting to stiffen a lot on what he's willing to do because he's getting frustrated with Red. So yes, I agree. And I think Howard would be much more willing to go certain lengths.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if he's friends with Red and his son is married to Red's daughter. I mean, there's just they're family. Yeah. Whether Scotty and Red want it or not.
to me it's interesting that whatever you may think about the connection of Red and Liz in a biological sense, it's obvious to me that he considers her a daughter, even if he does not consider himself as a father. But so that is that. And then the other item that I thought interesting to bring is that I've always been very uneasy about that kicking and the attack that Liz had when she was pregnant. And I found it interesting because you don't tend to see these things. And I rewatch it by a fluke. Sometimes I choose an episode and I put it on the background kind of while I'm doing something else. And suddenly there he was. Tom proposes in the open air. Liz is pregnant enough that Red can see that there is a change in her. And sure, Red is very observant and had been with her for this 3 weeks or the 5 months or whatever they were on the run.
3 months.
3 months. So that would make definitely somebody else aware of that. Probably it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But the fact that Tom proposes in the open air where everybody can see them, and that day Liz gets kicked, or the day after Liz gets kicked, tells me that there is a connection between these things. So either somebody didn't want them married, somebody was aware that Liz was pregnant and didn't want that child to be born, because the guy, as I was watching, it was such a horrifying episode to watch. I mean, that attack, that it's not one that I've gone, fond of watching, but I did it again and I was impressed by how the guy keeps looking around him, make sure that nobody sees him. That's not a casual thing. The man is wearing plaid. the guy is looking at, is a target. He goes and he looks at her, then makes sure that she's her, then takes her to the ground. It wasn't that he punched her. The main objective that this guy had was taking her to the ground and kicking her.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like where they were trying to make her abort the baby.
Maybe make
Someone
was
lose the
after
baby.
Agnes.
Yeah. So it just, as I go on and I see all these things with Christopher coming into the foreground when he was lost, why was it important that he was lost? And now somebody did kick Liz when after he had proposed to her. So I wonder if there is something about this two coming together that is making a lot of people upset.
I mean, and the thing is, if someone is manipulating, Howard and Scotty and trying to take over Halcyon, Tom's an heir, Agnes is an heir.
Exactly.
Mean, that's taking out the competition there. I mean, even if Tom didn't know, I mean, all it would take was someone saying something. Even if Scotty and Howard were out of the way and someone else was in charge, he could come back and say, do a DNA test. I'm Christopher Hargrave. And whoever had, spent the last 30 years on their scheme would be ousted.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And not only that, but I got the next generation ready to go because, even if something happens to me, there is my daughter.
Yeah.
And my wife would take over as the guardian of my daughter. And now my daughter, the guardian will be basically tied to Raymond Reddington. And both of them have been shown to be against the Cabal.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Liz would do so well in Halcyon. She would do so well because she would be able to do. She'd keep it legal, but she would have she would have so much less red tape to go through.
Mm,
she would do very, very well in Halcyon.
So Samar.
Yeah, Samar would as well. Exactly.
No complaints about salary there.
She'd get paid more. It'd be okay. Yeah. But no, I agree, and the Cabal's a very good possibility for all of this, for setting this up. And it could be that they've gotten to someone on, within Halcyon. It could be that they've put someone within Halcyon. This is just a very long game that someone is playing. But I think someone's playing it, and I think it's coming to a head. They're either going to win or they're going to lose. And I hope they lose because, I'm cheering for the Hargraves. including Tom.
I think that it would be very interesting. What do you think is going to happen with his name?
I think that he's chosen Tom Keen. I mean, we've talked about that multiple times. I haven't changed my opinion on that. I think that he is Tom Keen and Liz is Elizabeth Keen. And I think they're going to accept the Christopher Hargrave and the Masha Rostova, Elizabeth Reddington, what have you, whatever Liz's real name is. I think that they're going to accept that part of themselves, and they may even, I have no idea how you would legally, like how Tom would, because I mean, I know that when someone's considered legally dead and they're not, that they have to basically go and prove that they're not to a court. And so I have no idea what that would mean. And because essentially he was raised away from these people under a different name. He's taken on a different name since then. And so it would be like he was adopted and going by that name, which, I mean, I know he wasn't, but, Tom Keen is his legal name. I don't think that he'd be required to change back to Christopher Hargrave for legal reasons. I mean, maybe on certain paperwork it would have to have both, but it would be... I don't think he's going to go back to Hargrave.
I have a feeling he will.
Yeah, I think that there's a reason he keeps staying with Tom. Because... otherwise, why not just go back to Jacob and just keep switching? Because something about Tom Keen, he found himself in Tom Keen. Yes, he's finding more out about himself now, but he learned to love someone and found love in Fairy Beauty and the Beast. Sorry, found love in return. He learned what it meant to be human as Tom Keen, and so I think that that's bigger. I think for him, he really that's who he is. And I don't think he's going to change the name. I mean, we'll see. And maybe he will, but personally, I have not changed my opinion on that.
All right, mate. My take is he will. My take is he will because I think when he finds his parents, he's gonna find, once he is able to be their child, he's going to be, that is going to, in a way, fill holes in his life for him. And I think that he will find that to be an experience that he enjoys, rather. So we shall see.
Yeah. I'm not sure he has to change his name for that.
Oh, I don't think that he will change it now. I think he will remain Tom Keen for the remainder of the time. But as it goes further towards the end, at least of the Blacklist, and he might be that he registered that as an alias, and he keeps being Tom Keen on the field, because then Tom Keen will never be traced back to Christopher Hargrave.
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of ways that he could do that. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see as it pans out. So I think
What
that
did
about.
you thought about that horrendous scene at the beginning of the episode? God, that was awful to watch.
You know what? I watched it the first time, and I think I watched it on one of my rewatches. But for the most part, I go and I start at the credits. I can't watch it. I just I
Oh my God!
I
And
wanted
that
to
kid,
Oh, I'm like, have you no soul?
that
Have
kid, and
you
the kid
no
like
soul?
thanking him. Oh my
Oh,
God!
yeah, I know.
What an
It's like
awful scene.
it was heart wrenching. I'm just like, are you kidding? Really? Okay. Um, no, I can't do that. I refuse to do that. I won't rewatch that. I will start at the credits, and I love the episode. It was too much for me.
Yeah, that moment when he just like the kid just goes and oh my God!
I mean,
And I'm thinking,
and
come on,
these are people that have already been through hell, and they're just, yeah, nope, nope, can't do it, can't watch it. Ugh. I mean, and because you could see the turmoil on the man's face, but apparently not enough.
no, not enough.
Oh,
Do you think that when Scotty finds out Tom is Christopher, is she going to be less prone to send him on missions or things like that?
I don't know. I've wondered that. I don't have an answer for you on that. I think that if she is, that's going to be a point of disagreement between them. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, it's gonna go back to like Liz and Red. I mean, taking her to Wujing in Middle Earth, and
yeah.
they're almost about to get killed. So I wonder if for the children of spies is like, you know what? All I can do is help you, make you be protected and learn to protect
Yeah,
yourself.
I mean, she does know that he's good at what he does. I mean, Liz has no problem with him being in the field as long as he's in the field for the right people. And so I mean, because she knows how good he is, she is aware. Yes, she's nervous when she's in the middle of it and he loses contact with them. We saw that in season 4 when he was working with them to try to get Agnes back. That when he went radio silent, she, a couple different times, she was like, I mean, she was very nervous over it. I mean, and that makes sense. She loves him. She doesn't want anything to happen to him. But she also trusts him that he is good at what he does. And I think that's kind of what it's going to pan out with Scotty, is that she'll, and it could be a point of tension at first, where she starts trying to wean him off of it and be like, hey, you sure you don't want to learn the ropes of running this thing? He's like, no. No. I would like to go out in the field where I'm good. Could you imagine Tom Keen doing paperwork and
No,
I know.
no,
I just
no.
I mean, maybe when he's older, but start learning all of the stuff for it, but no.
Start training younger guys to do that.
Yeah. Not in his 30s though. Let the poor man out in the field where he belongs.
Now, there is only one last item that I got on my theories list, which is I always found, and this goes back to the Blacklist, I always found interesting that Rostov, Kirk, of all the military contractors that he could have hired to get Agnes or Liz, he went to Halcyon.
I think there was history there.
Yes, I was going to say that because he says, Scotty tells Tom tells Red, it was a business decision. It was a matter of survival. We do what we got to do to survive. And it's why survival? Because I mean, Rostov was rich, but I mean, come on, any of those contracts of the government is billions of dollars. And I mean, they got 2 airfields and training facilities. These people are not. This a survival is not an economic survival for Scotty to have taken that job. So when she talks that job for survival reasons. What did Rostov had on her that it made a survival thing that she took that job, but she declined to kill Red?
I don't know. If she is an undercover agent, maybe he found that out.
Hmm.
I don't know.
But there's something to keep in mind as we go along. What on earth could Kirk had on her to force her to take that job as a matter of survival? And I think with that,
that about wraps us up. You can listen to us on iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Feel free to leave a message for us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. And so we love to hear from you guys. We love to hear your thoughts. For those that follow on Twitter, Moonlit Geek, which is an awesome, awesome person, she started a new Twitter feed. It's the handle is Ryan_Rising. It's a Twitter feed for Tom and for Ryan. And so if anybody is interested in that, she's really cool. She does a lot of edits and such, photo manipulation and such. That's really awesome. So I'm sure a lot of that will be up on that new Twitter feed that got started maybe about a week ago. She asked us to mention it. So everybody go follow her because she's awesome. And until next week.
Well, we shall see where all this goes.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.